what's the foundation of the business is your true heart's desire, your integrity, and there's a lot of consciousness in it as well.
If you're looking for business mentorship, I have a place where you can get feedback on your unique personal development and business growth challenges. Over the last year, I've brought together a group of impact-driven thought leaders where we meet every single day to discuss psychology, communication, mindset, and business case studies. We have people who have made millions of dollars, lost millions of dollars, Harvard MBAs, and new entrepreneurs like you and I. Entrepreneurship can be lonely, so if you're looking for a support system, please follow the link in the description below for some more information.
Successful or not, he keeps on doing them.
That's what it's all about.
What made him, I think, made him more money? He used to do like after hours parties for expats, and that made him the most.
No way.
I think he continues to do that.
That's what he told me. He's like, I used to like throw parties, but now all the people that I used to party with are now growing up and are starting businesses. So now I throw entrepreneurship parties.
Yeah. He's a character, I'll tell you that.
That, to say the least. So tell me, what are you doing? Give me like a little background on your business.
Okay, so I have different things that I'm doing. The main thing, I'm building a program to help coaches, consultants, and experts take their knowledge, turn it into programs, and scale it internationally. That's what I'm doing. Well, the twist there is that it's not the conventional way of scaling. I'm into consciousness-related topics.
Me too.
And the way I want to do it is doing some sort of exorcism. I don't say it up front, but as a society,
we're rolling, by the way.
We're deeply wounded. Okay? We're deeply wounded. And what happens with that is that we make decisions. We decide where we want to go, with whom, and in what way. But it's not real. It's conditioned by our upbringing, by the society, by our friends, by the things that we know to be true. But what if a lot of the things that you set for yourself have a foundation that is not true for you? It's all ego. It's not the heart. It's not God. It's not the truest you who's making the decisions. So the idea, and the reason why I say exorcism, is because there are so many things within us that we consider to be us, but they're not true for us. And once you overcome that, your priorities change, your relationships change, the way you relate to business changes, and the things that were enticing initially are now repulsive, maybe. I remember in the beginning of my career, I was involved in different ventures. I used to be the golden boy. You know that syndrome? Like you grow up in a family where everybody claps because you're smart or you're fast or you're good at sports, whatever. For whatever reason, the kid, in this case me, believes he is valuable because he does valuable things. So I became the best student I could. I became the best guy doing sports I could. I became good at different things. I went to the church. I did everything that was expected of me at the highest level. In time, I realized that I was chasing something that was never mine. I was seeking things that I thought were my goals, but in the end, they were only the solution I thought I had to fix my inner child wounds. The problem with that is no matter how far I would have gotten or how many resources I had, or how many partners, or how cute my partner was, or whatnot, I would have never found a solution for my problem, because that's something that I had to fix through emotional work and consciousness. So this awakening happened after I lost all my money. That's where I met Jose, for example. And I started this journey of understanding my motivations. I had invested all the money I had and some of my mom's money into the real estate company. And eventually I figured things were not working. It wasn't getting any better. I had a partner that I thought that she knew what she was doing. She was not. I was very naive in that sense and very optimistic about things, but I didn't punish the numbers. I wasn't really taking care of the things that a real business owner should be taking care of. And at that moment of my life, my grandfather, who was a most important figure, like male figure at that time, passed out. He had cancer and he passed away. Not passed out, passed away. Then I had fights with my girlfriend. I was getting to work. It was dark when I went to work. It was dark when I came from work. My health was deteriorated. I was losing money every month. Every area of my life you could imagine was destroyed at that time. So I'm giving my best, and it's not enough. And I remember the lesson that I had was that no matter how good you are at school or how good you are at anything specific, if you lack the expertise, you don't get into that industry and bet everything on it. It's better to get your feet in and start doing things from scratch and start learning from the people, and then you can do other things. And I was destroyed. But one of the things that really hit me after I had lost all the money and there was like no hope of recovering, I realized, if I had the chance to do something I want to do, I would do it again. So at that moment where, family members lost, relationships lost, health lost, self-esteem lost, money lost, everything, I knew that if I had the chance to do another project, I would do it. That's the moment I realized that I was a true entrepreneur in a way. But I didn't want to do things the way I had done them. So I didn't want the money for the sake of the money. I got into real estate. I was interested in real estate, but I was not passionate in it. I was passionate about helping people in other ways, human connection and all that stuff. So I gave up all the crazy ambitions. I realized those ambitions were never mine. And I started building this journey. And now what's different in this business, helping coaches, consultants, and experts scale internationally, is that what's the foundation of the business is your true heart's desire, your integrity, and there's a lot of consciousness in it as well. So when we talk about consciousness, people sometimes bring religion, and they're like, well, Christianism teaches this, or Islam teaches this, or whatever religion teaches something. I don't like the specific religion approach because it can be exclusive. I like talking about universal truths. So, this truth that says don't treat somebody a way you wouldn't want to be treated, right? So there are other laws in Hermetism, for example, that talk about correspondence. If you do good, you receive good. If you do bad, you receive bad. Or mentalism, that everything's created through the mind. And what I do is I take all these principles, I see the application those principles have in business, and through coaching and other frameworks to understand the person further and understand what it is that they really want, and also pinpoint their limitations, see where ego is kicking in, where they're not seeing things that are holding them back. Once I have the complete overview, I can guide them to choose the right business opportunities in the right way. And it would be somewhat arrogant for me to say that that's the final part of their journey. That's just the beginning. From there on, they will have to learn. And in that process, they will find themselves even further. They will go deeper. And the idea behind this is to create a different world. Because the world that I grew up in, if you remember, and you can stop me anytime, okay? When you were a kid, you probably thought about the world differently. Like there's joy and there are no limitations. Like, what do you want for Christmas? I want 3 pools. You're like, whatever, 1, 2, 3 pools, whatever, many pools. You don't have the limitations you have as you grow up. Because as you grow up, you start realizing that there are people with ill intentions, falling hurts, and all these things. But sometimes what happens is that as you grow up, you start building like this iron cave where the heart resides in. But as you create that to protect yourself from the world, you also stop all the beautiful things that are there, and you can't really express yourself freely because you may think it's not worth it, or it's not gonna work, or whatever. It's really courageous for somebody to have goals and dreams, because we've learned that you have a goal and then you don't hit it, and then you start losing faith in yourself, and coming back, even if it's Christmas or New Year's resolutions, people set up goals, sometimes naively, but I think anybody who sets out a vision for themselves and they're emotionally invested in that, and they say, I want to make this happen, and they talk about it. Those are people who are being very brave. But we have lost that. Even the most ambitious people I know, some of them have given up on the things that they really care about. I coach high-level executives on their life situations. I've found that most problems that they have in business have personal consequences as well. If they fix their behaviors in their personal lives, sometimes their business problems go away. And what I've seen is that you have people that may accumulate age, but it doesn't mean that they don't have childish behavior or adolescent behavior. And what I want to help people do is to keep their dreams true, but also prepare for a new world that has a set of rules that has been reigning, but is coming to an end. For example, as I learned marketing, because I started my personal development journey and I started with marketing, I started with sales and all that stuff, I had something that really bothered me. And it was how predatory some of the marketing stuff was. I would see these guys and they're like, well, you need to create an avatar, and then that avatar needs to have an enemy, because when you divide, you pick a side, and then you can do this, and then you tell them this stuff and this stuff, and you take the pain, and then you take the pleasure, and all this stuff is good and all if you have good intentions. But sometimes when you have people making marketing decisions and growing these informational product businesses, they don't care about you that much. They just care about how fat their wallet is, and that really bothered me. It bothered me to an extent that I could not just cross my arms and not do anything about it. But I didn't have an answer. and I had too many problems on my own. I tried those strategies on my own. I tried making money, and it worked to an extent, but I didn't feel good. So what I want to help people do is to do the right thing in an attractive way, non-manipulative way, where they can touch the hearts of their customers, have extraordinary service, create transformation through their products, learn to value themselves, and position those products in the market. And if you do the inner work to figure out who you are, what you stand for, and you find a way of adding value, create an offer, market it in a humane, trustworthy way, and deliver extraordinary results, there's no reason for you to not make 5 to 10 grand a month. I've hired experts, people doing 300K plus a month in Latin America, and they're doing great. I mean, they're doing money. What I stand for that is beyond the money is that life is really about your experience in it. And your experience is conditioned by so many things. And if you can connect to your truth, to the truth, and you can really appreciate how much of a gift it is to be here today and develop yourself to the extent where you are happy, peaceful, elegant, no matter what's going on around you, that's the ultimate gift beyond the money. Because I've seen people with money being miserable, and that's not the idea. I didn't want to be the guy who promised money, and by the end of the road, they're like, okay, now I have this, but where's the juice in this? Where is it? And you hear all the time, like, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, Sounds cliche. And even if you know the phrase, you really need to dig deep for it to be true for you. So wrapping it up and summarizing it, I want to help people do good through their service, through their expertise, take their talents, share it with the world, create positive transformation, and do it in such a way where they are clean. They're not a part of a manipulative system that tries to get money at all cost. That's the main project. I'm also a TV host for a program that interviews entrepreneurs, so I know what it is to be in that seat. And then I do corporate consulting, or sometimes the government calls me up and they're like, well, I need a marketing consultant, or I need to prepare an event for this many people. And I get the speakers, I get everything done in a way that it makes sense for them. So that's like the complete thing work-wise for me. More than work, something I've learned from mentors like Jose is that it's really hard to separate life in two buckets. Like, this is my personal life and this is my professional life. I'm just a human being that's true to his heart, and I'll do whatever is real to me at every moment. So if I feel like sleeping, I'll sleep. If I feel like working, I'll work. I don't have a set number of hours that I should be doing this or that. Sometimes I do it, but most of the time I don't. But what I stand for, even more than work, even my relationships or how I conduct myself, what I want to be is a positive force of impact and serve my heart, which is my way of connecting with God, in such a way that at the end of the day, I was true to myself every day. If that means helping entrepreneurs, great. If it means, doing my business, great. If it's having a deep conversation and help somebody who's, in a bad spot, great. But even beyond the work, I have solid principles that are true to me, and I am at service to the highest level that my consciousness allows me at every time. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean I don't have things to work through, but that's my disposition. If I ever find something that's more important for me to do than these things, I'll happily drop them and do something else.
Well said. And I align with everything that you're saying. It's very inspirational and completely true. A question that I have, going back to one of the early things you said, which is like identifying that true, authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times that's easier said than done.
Sure.
But do you have any methodologies for identifying? Well, first, even before that, what was the thing that catalyzed you or put that into your awareness that you weren't being true to yourself and made you aware of your true self? And then, what methodologies do you give to someone else to artificially, it obviously happened to you organically, but how to make that happen?
Well, you're always in the lesson. So there's no chance you're not in the lesson. So I know people, sometimes they're interested in learning something specific that will be in their interest. But there's something, some people call it God, some people call it the universe, that has things set up in such a way where you don't need to really think that much. People think about school as the source of education, right? So they think you go to school, you learn these things, and then you become somebody. Well, there's somebody who is doing a lot of the work that you didn't decide, okay? That universal intelligence, God, chose a place for you to live in, the language you will learn, the parents you would have, the kind of environment you would be in. And that environment, that setup, the entire configuration, the settings that you have are perfect for you. That's your training ground that's set up by something that created the moon, the stars, the ocean, and everything. So I would say the first step is to realize that nothing is by coincidence. You may not like your parents, but they're part of your life and you have lessons to learn there. Sometimes our biggest teachers are those who are the hardest to learn from, okay? So once you realize that the biggest school is not the educational system, but it's life itself, you can start relating from some of the lessons that you can get from school. For example, if you wanted to be a good student in school, they'll teach you prepare and do this and that and read these books. And if you were to be a bad student and you failed, what would happen? You would have to repeat the course. So in life, it's very similar. You have a partner. You have a bad habit of not being responsible emotionally. You project everything and your partner gets upset and your relationships don't work. You do it again and again and again. And then you start thinking, hey, I don't think I'm made for relationships. No, it's just that you have not understood. You don't understand how you're creating chaos. But do you think, if this is an important lesson for your life, do you think God, life, would take away the opportunity for you to learn? No. They would put in front of you the same lesson again and again until you get it. So repetitive situations in your life, whether it's sadness or anger or whatever, that's not something that feels good for you, holds the lesson. And another cliche phrase says something like, the magnitude of the problem or of the pain has to do with the magnitude of the lesson. They talk about seeds. So if you have a big problem, it's a big seed for opportunity and growth and so forth. So I would say the first step is to realize that in front of you, every day of your life, there are things that are showing up that are purposefully placed there for your unique configuration for you to evolve as a human being. That's like step one. When did I realize this? Probably 4 years ago. I've done everything. I've gone like intense on the church side and, go to mass every day. I've traveled to other countries and I've done like the country in other countries like rituals where you have plant medicine and stuff like that. I've done like an inner search. I've been in moments where I think, it's over for me. In business, what am I going to do now? I've had great mentors. I've traveled and visited, some of the greatest people in personal development, coaching, sales, marketing. I've had so many opportunities. But what I've come to find is that wherever you go, the biggest thing that's going to teach you something is your reality, your heart. Ultimately, you become your biggest master. Obviously, it really helps out to have somebody who's further along the way. But that's where I realized what you were asking, like, if I want to get started, like how would I do that in a practical way? Most of your problems are right in front of you. Do you have a debt that you have not paid? That's there for you to take care of. So if you don't have the skills, probably you would need to develop the skills and be responsible and pay your debt. If that's the case, if you have problems with your mom or your dad or your partner, then that would be it. If you see yourself in the mirror and you're not quite comfortable with it, maybe go exercise. If you go exercise and you see yourself in the mirror and then you realize you still don't like yourself, maybe go to therapy. It's really in front of you. It's for you to open your eyes and realize that your life is never a punishment. It's always a training ground. And what's beautiful about that is that sometimes you don't know what the training ground is preparing you for, but it could be a meaningful conversation that impacts somebody. It could be creating a business that transforms the way an industry is being developed. It may make of you the leader the country needs to move forward in a different way. We are not quite aware of that. And I think that some masters call it blissful ignorance. Like, if I knew what the universe or God is preparing me for, probably I would give up right now. So you take it step by step, day by day. And once you realize that the things that are bothering you in your life are not bad at all, but they're indicators for you to pay attention and fix them and grow from that, I think life becomes easier. It can be really overwhelming in the beginning to understand how everything's your responsibility or how everything talks to you that way. It could be very intense. But as time goes by, the level of responsibility frees you and you can live a happier life.
So, do you believe in predetermination or free will?
In what sense? How do you mean? Like, can I be motivated by something that's somebody didn't put there, but it's entirely mine? Something
Well,
like that?
so you said like every experience that you've had is laid out in front of you. So that would be more like predetermination, like your life is
I
already
get what you're
planned
saying.
out.
Yeah,
Or do you have the chance to, or do you have the choice to determine how your life plays out? And
well, one way to put it that's very simplistic because our understanding of reality is very limited is that you are a co-creator. So imagine if you were a manufacturer. Have you ever played video games?
Mhm.
Imagine, right? Yeah. Like Jose's kids, they only do surfing and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yeah, video games. Imagine you're the creator of the video game. That would be, people would call it God, okay, or the universe.
Yeah.
He knows what goes where and all the mechanisms behind and the intelligence behind you seeing that on the screen. But you are playing the game. So my question is, as you, the player, do you have the ability to move up and down and left and right? You have the opportunity. Yeah. The thing is, if you want to go deeper, yeah, you can go up, left, right, down. But can you really decide, or is it predestined or whatnot? It's something, in my experience, that can be decided. So there are multiple possibilities of futures that can be transformed at any time given a set of decisions. Okay, so my life could be miserable. I drink, I destroy myself, I hate everybody, I'm violent. And one day somebody hits me in the face. I realize I'm being a jerk. It's not doing me any well. And I decide, you know what? I've been too harsh on other people. I don't want to do this much pain. I want to change. The trajectory would indicate that that person should be dead within years or in jail. But if that person decides to change, that's where the miracle happens. Was that predestined? You can argue. I think God has an evolution sense to himself, where we were what, monkeys? We evolved, so we've come a long way, right? I'm of the crew of people that likes to believe there's a happy ending to it. I don't think that happy ending comes by itself. I think the player with the controls in their hands need to decide. But in their setup, they have everything that they need to get to that happy ending. So that would be the way I look at it. We do have agency. There's no doubt in any cell of my body about it. We have agency. And we have support. You remember the bowling lanes? You have those
Bumpers?
side bumpers all the time. They are on. Depending on how far you can go, they may move a little bit further, but you have them. That's why you see so many people that should be having lives that are destroyed, and they're not destroyed. And that's why change is a possibility. And that's why when we see somebody that inspires us, it's so moving, because we all have the possibility of getting there. We can recognize that in other people, and that moves us. It has little to do with the other guy. Who cares who that person is? What I care about is that when I see him, I remind myself of my greatness. And there's something that reminds me of that. There are situations that happen for me in order for me to evolve and change and lead a happy life. Tony, I think in his life, Tony Robbins, in his life, he had to make a decision. He had to decide to talk openly about God or not, I think. I think he decided initially to not talk about it because it was somewhat controversial or businessmen were not prepared for that. In my relationship with my heart and myself, I've been thinking about it and really feeling it. And I will speak openly about it. But a phrase that he mentions is that life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. And I don't, he would talk about it as a belief. He would say, it doesn't matter what you think. The important thing is to think about something that is useful. That was his speech. I don't think that's accurate. I believe firmly that what's true for you feels good in the end, does the best to your life, the lives of the people around you, and there is really something ensuring you are better off than if you were to be on your own.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think of it kind of, I mean, I go through a lot of these thought experiments, and at times it's given me anxiety, you know, because of the unknown. And I've come to a realization, which is that no matter how hard I work right now, like to gain that knowledge, it's like, it's almost always just a little bit out of reach.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not worth like putting the energy into like gaining this universal knowledge that gives me the purpose of life. And I think that the free will comes from the ability to choose how you perceive this moment. And that's all that exists. And it's like, and one of the ways that I've realized that, for instance, in my company, one of the services or one of the jobs that gets done within my company is we install an erosion control product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's extremely labor intensive. It's not a fun job, by my definition of what a fun job would be.
Yeah.
And when I first started the company, I hired a bunch of my buddies to do this job and putting in stakes in the ground, being in the dirt, in the mud, and they hated their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the worst thing ever. But later on in the company, we hired several guys from Peru. And they're doing the exact same job. And they're literally happier than pigs in shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of their job.
Yeah.
Is like working in the dirt and in the mud.
Yeah.
But they have a smile on their face every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two of the exact same situations. The same reality, yet one guy is having the best time of his life and the other guy is hating his life. Yeah. And I think that is like free will, is it's not about the cards that you're dealt or the reality that you're living. It's how you perceive that reality. And that internal state, that internal perception actually externalizes that reality. And that is how you have the power to control your reality, because does your reality not change? If that outcome is the same, if you're doing that same job, but one's loving life and one's hating life, are they not living two different realities? Yet they're doing the same thing, but they're living two completely different realities. So I think that internal discipline over your perception and your state of mind is how you control your reality.
And it's funny that you mention it by countries, because you're from the USA, right?
Yep.
You have USA and then you have Peruvian. Every country has its own energy and its own unconscious. So if you talk about people in the US, you could even say, people from New York are fill the blank. People from Texas or Austin are fill the blank. And you would see how they have similar environments. The school systems is roughly the same. probably a difference between public and particular. But anyhow, you have kind of the same thinking process. So when you have a country like the US, when you talk about USA, you hear Warren Buffett. He says, if I had to negotiate from the womb, I would say as long as possible to make sure I am born in the US. That's what he said a couple of days ago, right? I understand where he's coming from. Every country has its own direction. And it's like the American dream. You can build a business, become a millionaire, get ahead, come here, make your life, everything's possible. And that's beautiful. But what does that have in it? It has an implied sense of ambition. So if I'm going to be doing labor that's not paying me very well, how does this unconscious ambition connect with this labor that I'm doing? Sometimes it can play against you. And you have a job and you're not grateful for it. And then you have an attitude and there your career goes. You're not being grateful for the opportunity. So sometimes you don't grow. But you take somebody who's Peruvian, who's used to maybe growing, rabbits or whatnot, what their unconscious collective, as Peru, what do they strive for normally? Some countries have values like hard work. If you see some of the Asian countries, if you see Japan or you see China, for example, they're brought up and they have the best grade. Why? It's not about the school system only. It's about the beliefs and everything they stand for as a citizen of a country. So definitely there is a mindset piece to it. But that mindset piece could also be conditioned by where you were born. It is conditioned by where you were born. So the game, for me, the game of life is to be true to yourself. So if you're not happy, doing the labor and the hard work, maybe ask yourself why not. And if it's something that you need to go through to, develop the mindset and the gratitude, do it. But there is a chance that that's not your, final spot in life. You want something different because there is also a reason why you don't like it or why you don't appreciate it. So find what's true for you. What do you want to do? You want to become another entrepreneur? Stop hating on the boss and do it yourself, So that's the game for me. Wherever you were born, whatever you do the inner work needed to understand why and how we're among all the things that could be given to you. Why are you good with math? Why are you good with words? Why are you good with people? Do you think those gifts are there randomly? Or can you really harmonize with how everything's playing out and you can really assess and say, all these things that I've been given are clues. Small pieces of a puzzle. I may not know what the puzzle looks like completely, but my life makes sense. And Steve Jobs talked about this. You know that big speech in Stanford, or he would say something along the lines of, life doesn't make sense as you're going through it. It only makes sense when you look back and you connect the dots. Mm-hmm. The dots are always there for you, right? So, yeah, the mindset is critical. Being grateful is very important. Looking at your life and wondering, as if it were a story, and wondering, why is this character going through this much hassle? Why is this character given all the traits? And if you were to see a movie, and this is the drama of life and also the gift of life, if you go to the movies and you see a guy that's doing well and he does better and he starts doing better and better, and then the movie ends, it's kind of a it's a bad movie. You want to see the guy having a dream, and then he has a dream, and then he goes for it, and he fails, and then he finds a sweetheart, and then he, gets married, and she doesn't believe in him, and he gets into a crisis, and then he really finds out that, he was, this guy that was always looking for approval, and now he's by himself, and he finds a dog, and there, all this story, and eventually figures out that he's responsible, that he has agency, that he can make his dreams come true, and he starts working hard, and he has challenges, but eventually he makes it. And what's beautiful about those stories, and that's how life plays out, because I don't think people live life like scenario number one. They live life with ups and downs and everything. Life is really that classroom preparing us for that better, happier version of ourselves. And if we can learn the lessons that have been put out there for us, we'll do better. We'll do better. And once we do better and we realize, I can be successful and I can be happy and whatnot, you get to a point where the only reasonable thing to do is to help other people. And when you get there, then it's another ball game. And you start helping people out. But it takes some time for you to get yourself in the right spot with the right circumstances to own your own game. Then you can start helping out other people. And you can help along the way, but there's no shortcut for your own personal development process. You need to get through it.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think for me, in all the thought experiments that I've ever done, I come to a lot of dead ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to conclude absolutes, right? It's very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a case for everything, and you can make an argument for everything, and play devil's advocate against everything.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with what you said. And one thing that I feel absolute about is that love is the answer. Like, we have the choice of what energy we put into this universe, and every single decision and action that we make in some capacity has a ripple effect that resonates through the entire universe for an eternity. And I think that, at least in my own belief system, I've only experienced consciousness and being awake through my own perspective. I will never experience it through your perspective. So it's difficult to conclude that absolute, that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
But at least when I go down that rabbit hole, I kind of think that, at least how I rationalize it in my own head, which again is like could be or could not be, but I feel a deep conviction that there is some singularity between all things. And I think that is consciousness or God. It's like that one thing that unifies all things. And I think that we are in some way, all connected. So it's like, why would you show hate? It's like, why would you bite your nose to spite your own face? It's like, if you're a part of me, why would I do wrong by you? And I think that, for me, is the answer to the universe, is like spreading that love and spreading that positivity at all times, because we're all connected.
Right. There are very easy phrases. What goes around comes around. Or people talking about purpose. When we talk about love, it's just so vastly misunderstood. And what you say is so true, because we're conditioned by point of view. So that's a big limitation.
Right.
So there are masters that they say, do you know what is a thing? When you go and you try to describe it, there's no way you can be absolute about it. So the level of humility needed to take on that session, that you don't know what a thing is very high. And some masters say that once you've tried to understand reality and how it operates and everything in it, you get to realize that there is way too much information in order to process and summarize. So the only reasonable thing to do is to surrender to what is. Because whatever it is, and you're not changing that. You may change the way you experience it, but you cannot go against it. It's going against the programmer of the game. You're in the game. And then within that space, then there are other masters that talk about what are very simple indicators that you're on the wrong or the right track. Do you feel better? Are your relationships better? Do you find more harmony in your interactions? Do you feel more driven, passionate? Can you be with yourself for long periods and not lose your mind? Those are very easy hints. So, at least in my path, I'm very respectful of whatever path. What I'll tell you is you need to find a way of finding sense or making sense of the game and being honest about the results that understanding is giving you. If you're being a good human being, moving forward, being responsible, in line with integrity, you're truthful, you do good, if you're aligned with the virtues and the principles of somebody who's a good person, I think you'll do pretty good. And some people sometimes think, at least in Panama, we have this stupid culture where we think being, a step ahead and taking advantage of others is good.
It's counterproductive.
We're not still awakened to the consciousness that allows us to see that that's a stupid short-term game. And that we would go so much further if we tried to build meaningful relationships, put an effort, put our heart into things, be excellent. For me, it's really heartbreaking to see some people with that kind of mindset. And one of the things that I want to be a part of is changing the way we look at things, because there's this quote says, when you change the way you look at things, the way you look at the things you look at change. Okay. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And we live in a country that, you've been here and you see that there's poverty and there's, some people doing good and they're well off and whatnot. But once you're in the game and you win the personal game and you know that you're on track and you have your family and things are well off and you are devoted to that service, and you know that it doesn't make sense to live in a country where you're okay, but other people are not okay. You are a part of it and you want to create a difference. In that game, education is critical. And one of the things that we need to learn is that there's so much to unlearn. Taking advantage of people is never going to play out well in the long run. Lying is not going to do any good. Avoiding responsibility won't do any good, and so many things that hold us back. And when you see some of the people that have the biggest challenges and they're living in poverty, they are the ones who believe in these things the most. And I believe that the politicians in the country are chosen by a critical mass of people that believe a certain way. And if you want to have politicians and people who care about their people, there needs to be a critical mass change in consciousness where people understand that doing the right thing is the only way to win the game. And I'm not talking about, the political game. I'm talking about the personal game. You, as a citizen, don't know how much chaos you're creating by not doing the right thing. Being true to yourself, being true to others, and, just doing the plain old stuff that is the right thing. That's what could change everything as a country. We talk about education changing things. We need to get to the basics, and we need to teach people things beyond science and Spanish and stuff. And sometimes religion does the best that they can. But what if I don't believe in what you believe, and all these crazy things that separate people? What I believe could join us as humanity is, the simple things. Do you want to be treated nicely? Yeah. You want to work hard and move things forward? Yeah. You want love in your family? Yeah. Do you want to, say the truth? Well, if it's not convenient, I will. That's the kind of things that we need to change. And the most limiting thing about breaking your integrity, for example, lying for money, is that it's not that you're getting consequences. That's sucks. That's not good. But it's not the hardest thing. The most dangerous thing about breaking the rules and being immoral or breaking your own internal compass is that you are affirming that you have no faith in yourself, winning the way the game is played. So what sense does it make to win Monopoly, or, the game Monopoly?
Mm-hmm.
If you're stealing money from the bank every time, or you have free houses or hotels, there's no glory to it. But that's the thing we need to get to realize, that we have a huge potential. And by doing the wrong things and taking the shortcuts, we're selling ourselves short. And we're limiting ourselves in a way that's very hard to correct. And that's another thing that I want to be a part of. I don't know in what way, shape, or form, whether it's politics or whether it's what. I want to be a part of changing the culture around things, so we as a country can stop thinking the limiting way. Stop trying to take advantage of people and find ways of creating value. And it's so particular that it's an entrepreneurship conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And what entrepreneurs do is solve problems, create value. So I think entrepreneurship will be a critical piece of changing not only the country, but also changing the world. With that mindset, I think we'll go so far. And I want to be putting my energy, my focus, my abilities, my time towards things that drive that change, however that looks like.
I agree with you completely. I align with everything that you say, and I have zero objections to it.
Mm-hmm.
If people are interested in joining you on this mission to change the world, or they want to reach out to you for advice, or they're interested in your services, where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Well, they could go to my Instagram. They can write Paco, that's PACO dot. Can I look it up real quick? Because I changed it.
Go ahead.
Oh, I don't have my phone here. But I think it's, okay, I got it. So it's Paco Vazquez, that's PACOVASQUEZ.LM. So the LM stands for Life and Mindset, which is a company I founded like 10 years ago. But as I said with the Steve Jobs quote, now I understand why I founded that company and called it that. Because in the end, it's all about our life and what happens here. Everything's created here. And that's why it's so critical for entrepreneurs to look for ways of thinking beyond their point of view. So structures of things that are not can fall, and we can have more consciousness in our head. And that allows us to create better decisions. And, everything comes with that: a better quality life, better relationships, better health, a better impact in the community. So thank you for what you do as well.
For sure. And to quote Steve Jobs, he says, it's the people that are crazy enough to change the world that are the ones that usually do. So I am sure that you will change the world for the better. I can see it and I can feel your energy, and it's inspiring. And I think if more people embodied that mindset, the world would be a much different place.
Yeah. And one thing I'll tell you, there's a phrase that's hilarious for me, and it says something along the lines of, if you can find the person that's responsible for all the problems of your life and kick them in the butt, you wouldn't be able to walk in 2 days.
That's great.
And
you're the common denominator between all the problems.
That's where you start. There's no way. There's absolutely no way there's chaos around you and you have nothing to do with it. You are a part of the problem. And that is amazing, because if you see yourself as a part of the problem, you can be a part of the solution. And when you take that on and you start realizing that there is room for growth, and as you grow, everything improves, that's life-changing.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been awesome. We might have to do a part 2. We're going to shake hands at the end.
Thank you for having me.
For sure.